My best friend and I married into the wealthy Gary family, for 30 million. She married the older brother, and I married the younger one. Every day, we sat beside their hospital beds, snacking on sunflower seeds. They really do look exactly the same, amused. Annie nodded thoughtfully. Do you think they look the same? Down there too? My eyes lit up. Wanna check? She hesitated. Oh, come on, I insisted. We're legally married to them. What's the harm? A year later. In the hospital room, one of the men turned his head slightly and opened his mouth. Bro, are we waking up or not? You wake, I wake. Rumors about the Gary twins falling into comas after a car crash had spread everywhere. Miss Gary, who had given birth to them late in life, was devastated. Doctors, shamans, even monks had been summoned, but nothing worked. Coincidentally, I was a Taoist priestess, and Annie was a doctor. If they're going to stay this way forever, Miss Gary sobbed, I can't let them go through life without ever having a woman. I jumped in eagerly. Miss Gary, if you're planning to find them wives, Dr. Annie and I are perfect candidates. Look, if we marry your sons, we'll take care of them with all our hearts. We'll do everything we can to wake them up. Thanks to my glib tongue, Annie and I were married into the Gary family. Miss Gary made it clear, if they're still unconscious after 3 years, I'll give you each 30 million. If they wake up, you get 300 million. I grinned. They'll definitely wake up. Privately, I whispered to Annie, 30 million split between us, 5 million a year each. Where else could we get a job this good? Annie nodded and gave me a big thumbs up. Derek and Tyler Gary slept soundly. Meanwhile, Annie and I munched seeds out of boredom. Being rich is awesome, I said, pointing at the fruit platter. Annie, guess how much that bunch of green grapes costs? 80? No. 800. Annie gasped sharply. We'd both grown up in an orphanage. This kind of luxury? Totally new to us. Per Ms. Gary's requirements, we had to spend at least 10 hours a day in the hospital room. Another rule, strictly no phones or computers. So all we did every day was talk, snack, and guess the price of things. Still, it was a pretty cushy gig, great food and drink, and professional caregivers handled all the actual nursing work. 3 months flew by. I stared at the handsome twins lying in bed. Annie, these two really are identical. Annie nodded again. Even, down there. My eyes sparkled. Should we check? That's not a good idea. Why not? You check the big brother, I'll check the little one. We're officially married, what's the problem with looking at our own husbands? But how do we compare them if we're each checking someone different? Good point. I dug out 2 measuring tapes. One for her, one for me. Under the covers, we each got to work. I stood up first. 18. Annie stood too, her face blazing red. Also 18. I widened my eyes. They really are exactly the same. She was blushing like crazy. I rolled my eyes. What's there to be shy about? You're a doctor. You've seen way more than this, on patients and in textbooks. Annie shook her head. This feels different. I tried to understand, couldn't. But I gave in. Fine. I turned to look at Tyler Gary, chuckling. It was actually the first time I'd ever seen a man like that. Suddenly, I noticed his lips twitch. Was that a smile? I spun around. Annie. The younger one just smiled. Annie rushed over, did a full checkup, then looked at me. Nope. He's not awake. Must have been your imagination. I nodded nervously, though a bit disappointed. So close, 30 million almost became 300 million. Annie sighed too and plopped back down beside me with her sunflower seeds. I joined her. Hey, what if they can hear us talking? Possibly. Then what if they wake up and remember what we just did? Annie patted my hand. Relax. They're not waking up. How do you know? Dozens of international experts have said it's impossible. Nothing to worry about. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. I stood beside Tyler's bed and whispered sincerely, please don't be mad. I really was just curious when I measured you. If it seems unfair, I'll tell you my bra size, 36D. The room was dead silent. At exactly 5 p.m. Annie and I clocked out and left. What we didn't know, was that after we walked out, both men opened their eyes. Tyler turned to his brother. Mine's actually 19. Derek shifted stiffly on the bed and muttered, screw off. Something's not right. Very not right. I paced around the bed, fingers pinching and calculating. According to my divination, the two of them should have woken up already. Plus, Tyler smirked yesterday. I muttered to myself, deep in thought. Annie was reading a medical textbook nearby. She looked up, exasperated. Rachel, it's normal for people in vegetative states to smile in their sleep. Some even get morning wood. My eyes widened. Morning wood. My curiosity exploded. I lifted Tyler's blanket and aimed my gaze straight at the lower region. Nothing. Completely flat. Too flat. I turned to Annie. He's got nothing. Does that mean it doesn't work? Annie pressed a hand to her forehead. I hesitated. You go check Derek. See if he's got anything. I'm not going. Why not? Because I know he's fine. Based on what? Annie's cheeks turned red. She didn't answer immediately. After much coaxing, she mumbled, I saw it yesterday. You what? You peeked behind my back. I was stunned. Annie had always been reserved and proper. I never expected this from her. Truly shocking. She looked like she wanted to say more, but her face only turned redder. I glanced down at Tyler beside me. His mouth twitched, again. On the other bed, Derek's ears were visibly pink. I rubbed my eyes. No doubt about it, I wasn't imagining things. Just to be sure, I turned to Annie. Babe, if you tickle a vegetable, would he flinch? A soft feather brushed across Tyler's nose, his palm, the soles of his feet, his waist. No reaction. He might as well have been a block of wood. I handed the feather to Annie. Try it on your husband. Annie got up and, under my supervision, began tickling Derek. He frowned, as if trapped in a nightmare, his face twisted in discomfort. Annie pulled back. Enough. If Ms. Gary does a surprise check, we're screwed. My eyes snapped wide open. I suddenly remembered. There was a security camera in the corner of the room. I turned, trembling. Crap. There's a camera. Annie froze, her eyes wide. We're so dead. Ms. Gary was famously protective of her sons. If she saw us doing that to her comatose boys, there would definitely be consequences. Sure enough, not long after, Ms. Gary stormed in on stilettos that could kill. She was furious, her face twisted with rage. You two, go to the manor and clean every inch of it for a week. Reflect on your behavior. As the bodyguards dragged us away, I was fuming with frustration. Because I'd caught Tyler smirking again. Back in the hospital room. Tyler slowly sat up and sneezed a few times. He turned to his brother. Bro, Rachel's going to kill me. What do I do? Derek rubbed his own nose, he'd nearly blown his cover just now. He shot his little brother a look filled with contempt. She's your wife. Why are you asking me? Tyler was quiet for a moment. Then asked, Did my sister-in-law really sneak a peek? Derek turned his head away and didn't respond. Seriously, who would have thought? She looks so proper, but secretly she's doing that. Tyler scoffed. This is your wife's bad influence. Don't drag my Rachel into this. She's a good girl. Tyler's face darkened immediately, clearly offended. The man had a strong protective streak. It must run in the family. Ms. Gary glanced at her two sons, rolled her eyes, and left for a shopping trip. After that, Annie and I were very well behaved in the hospital room. She read medical books every day. I ate snacks and cracked sunflower seeds. Since the marriage contract took effect, it had been a full year since I'd had any contact with the outside world. Forget phones or laptops, even a TV was out of the question. For a year, I'd harbored a lingering suspicion. Normally, coma patients require a catheter. But these two didn't. Even with endless 4 drips, the body should begin to weaken over time. But they didn't. They were still toned, muscles even. I suspected they got up at night to work out. But I had no proof, no reason. Still. If they had woken up, why keep pretending for an entire year? What were they waiting for? After some deep thought, I said, Annie, do you think they're faking because they don't want to give us the 300 million? What? I leaned close, whispering in her ear. Let's be honest, we've both suspected they're already awake. And we've got quite a few clues to support it. If they are awake, and still pretending, there's only one reason, they don't want to pay up. Think about it. Gary Corp is worth billions. Just to avoid giving us 300 million, the twins have been lying in bed for a year, playing dead. I laid it all out for Annie. She rubbed her chin and nodded. Makes sense. After more discussion, we had a plan. I stood beside the bed and addressed the comatose men. Dear President Gary. I know you're awake. I also know you don't want to give us the 300 million. Honestly, we didn't do that much. Taking that much money would feel a bit excessive. So, how about this, you can stop pretending. Let's just go by the original agreement, give us the 30 million, and we'll get divorced. Sound fair? The handsome men on the beds didn't move. I went on, kindly and persuasively. Come on. Don't be stingy. 30 million is pocket change for you. Just pay up, what's the big deal? Still no reaction. At 5 p.m. sharp, Annie and I clocked out and left the hospital. In the quiet room, the brothers opened their eyes. Bro, should we wake up now? You wake up, I wake up. If we wake up, we'll have to get divorced. What do we do? Rachel thinks I'm being stingy by not waking up, that I don't want to give her the 300 million. My reputation is ruined in her heart. Tyler grew more despondent as he spoke. He sat on the edge of the bed and wiped away tears. Derek closed his eyes, exasperated. Could you talk less? We still haven't finished today's company work. Tyler thought about the mountain of tasks awaiting them and immediately wilted. Both brothers gazed out the window, sighing together. When will this madness end? After a long silence, Tyler suddenly perked up. Bro, I've got a plan. Tyler woke up, but mentally, he was 6 years old. He only recognized me and his mother. When he looked up at me with sparkling eyes and called me wifey, my vision went dark. He's really dumb now. I couldn't believe it. Miss Gary sobbed like a child herself, nearly fainting. Tyler, tall, long-limbed Tyler, sat on the floor in his hospital gown, happily sucking on a lollipop. With big innocent eyes, he looked up at me. Wifey, do you want a lick? He offered me the half-eaten lollipop. Not really. You don't want it? You're rejecting me? Wah. My wifey is rejecting me. Huge tears rolled down his face. My brain buzzed. What in the world was happening? Even Annie was stunned. After a full examination, she gave her verdict, Rachel, he really is brain damaged. There's bleeding in his brain. His intelligence level has genuinely regressed. I did a mental calculation, checked the stars, the signs, the fate lines. And realized I'd somehow fallen into a love calamity. Great. Just great. I looked down at Tyler. Could he be my calamity? Wifey, why won't you comfort me? Tyler sobbed harder, tears pooling in his giant eyes. I trembled, took a deep breath, and turned to Ms. Gary. He's awake now. Can I leave? MS. Gary wailed louder. Mother and son cried in harmony, like a duet of heartbreak. On the other bed, Derek was still pretending to sleep. The room was chaos. Tyler and I were taken back to the Gary estate. Ms. Gary wiped her eyes and explained, I started my business late in life. Didn't have the boys until I was older. They never had a father, and now Tyler only recognizes you. Rachel, I'll wire the promised $300 million to your account. But Tyler just woke up. Can I ask you to stay a while longer and care for him? Don't worry, I'll pay you well. I love rich women. She offered another $300 million, for 1 year. I agreed on the spot, I'll take care of Tyler until he goes to his grave. So this was my destined calamity. Tyler wasn't doing great, emotionally, at least. He clung to me all the time. Literally. Even when sleeping, he had to hold me in his arms. For the sake of $300 million, I obediently played the role of human pillow. What I didn't know was how Annie was doing. Ms. Gary still wouldn't allow us phones, computers, or even a TV. No contact with the outside world. I couldn't even have a proper chat with Annie. Wifey, why won't you look at me? Tyler pouted with a pitiful expression. All 6 feet and 1 inch of him curled up on the sofa, nuzzling into my lap. I patted his soft, fluffy hair. I'm looking at you, I'm looking. My eyes are practically glued to you, okay? Yay. Tyler was handsome and adorable. I couldn't help but feel a little fluttery inside. But after 3 months of fluttering, I started to feel something was off. At night, after I'd fallen asleep, Tyler would sneak out of bed and tiptoe into the study. He even stole kisses while I was sleeping, thinking I had no idea. But as the kisses grew more intense, and the hickeys more obvious, it was impossible to ignore. Click. The door creaked open. Tyler crept out barefoot. I quietly slipped out of bed and followed him, holding my breath. The study door was ajar. Inside, Tyler was whispering into his phone. Bro, how's it going over there? I couldn't hear the reply. But I heard Tyler's smug response loud and clear. I'm doing great. Rachel loves me more and more. But this can't go on forever. She still thinks I'm mentally sick. Didn't I tell you to cling to her like crazy? You locked her up? Why? Wait, she remembers everything? And she still wants a divorce? What should I do? I'm scared. What if Rachel regains her memory and still wants to leave me? The more I listened, the worse it sounded. Locked up? Who's locked up? My brain flashed white with panic. I slammed the study door open, face flushed with fury, and shouted, let Annie out right now. Tyler turned to stone. His pupils quivered, and the phone nearly slipped from his hands. In his panic, he accidentally hit the speakerphone button. An identical male voice came through. I think I just heard Rachel. Tyler's Adam's apple bobbed. He couldn't speak for several seconds. I marched forward and snatched the phone, growling, Derek, where are you keeping Annie? Let her go. A beat of silence. Then came the calm response, this is between us. You're breaking the law. I barked. Shut up. Derek's voice was utterly flat, completely unbothered. Tyler suddenly snapped out of it. He grabbed the phone and barked, bro, what's your problem? How can you talk to Rachel like that? Derek paused. Control your wife. Let Annie out. I shouted, growing more anxious by the second. My mind couldn't process anything else. All I could think about was Annie's safety. Derek stayed eerily calm. I didn't lock her up. I don't believe you. Let her speak. I was practically ready to crawl through the phone and rip Derek's face off. I heard slow, steady footsteps through the line. Then the sound of a heavy iron door being dragged open. A man mumbled something in a low voice, and then, "Rachel, I'm okay." It was Annie. My tears welled up instantly. We'd been together since the orphanage. She had always been warm, strong, and patient, spoiling me like a sister and a mother. "They said you were locked up. How can that be okay?" I choked, disbelieving. "I chose to stay. They didn't force me." "Is Derek standing beside you? Is he threatening you?" "No." There was a pause, and then Annie added softly, "Rachel, we have children. Did you know that?" "What?" Annie said she chose to stay with Derek to be with their child. A 3-year-old boy named Tim Gary. And my child, same age, was named Tina Gary. A boy and a girl. But we're only 21. How can we have a 3-year-old? My voice cracked. My mind couldn't compute. "Rachel, we're actually 26, Annie whispered. "We're the ones who got into the accident." I sat at the edge of my bed, dazed. Annie explained that after the car accident, both of us had lost our memories. We only remembered our lives up to age 21. Everything after was a blank, even waking up in the hospital was gone. The only thing we remembered was the Gary twins' car accident 5 years ago. Back then, Derek and Tyler had really fallen into comas, but only for 3 months. And while we were caring for them, we fell in love. I had to admit, Tyler really knew me. He got Ms. Gary to talk about finding wives for them, knowing I'd take the bait. "I thought, maybe if we recreated familiar scenes, it would help you remember," Tyler said, kneeling before me, cautiously holding my hand. When he saw I didn't pull away, he visibly relaxed. "So, you two stayed in bed for a whole year?" I asked, still doubtful. "We wanted to wake up after 3 months. But my brother didn't want to." "Why?" He was torn. "Scared your sister-in-law would regain her memories, and scared she wouldn't. He's clueless about relationships. Couldn't think of anything better to do, so he just stayed in bed." And so, they kept pretending, for an entire year. According to Tyler, every day after 5 p.m., once Annie and I were off the clock, he and Derek would get up and start working. Once business for Gary Corp was wrapped up, they'd head off to the gym. Sometimes, they even attended evening banquets. By the time we returned the next morning, the two of them were always fast asleep again. Their act was flawless. "He's afraid Annie will divorce him?" I asked. "Yeah. And what about you two? You seem scared too. What did you do?" He allegedly cheated," Tyler said carefully. Then, seeing my expression darken, he quickly added, "But I swear, my brother's not that kind of person." I snorted. "You swearing means nothing. He really is clueless when it comes to relationships. He's super self-disciplined, he'd never cheat." I said nothing for a moment. Then asked, "And you?" Tyler instantly latched onto my thigh. "I'm totally innocent. I swear." He burst into dramatic sobs. "Wife, your bestie wants a divorce, now you do too. You say we're just alike, you want to leave with her and abandon me and our child." Tyler pulled our child into his arms and grabbed a photo album. "Look, our wedding photos, honeymoon, the road trip to Tibet with Tina." He pointed out every photo one by one. I held the little girl stiffly, staring at her delicate and familiar features. She obediently stared back at me for a moment, then tilted her head and softly called, "Mommy." I had a child. I was 21. No, wait, I was 26. Still, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Until Tyler showed me the date on his phone. July 29th, 2024. No wonder Ms. Gary hadn't let us use phones, computers, or even watch TV. She had completely cut us off from the outside world. Come to think of it, for over a year, the only people I'd interacted with were Annie and the Gary family. "Mommy, why won't you talk to me?" Tina asked, her voice soft and sticky with innocence. I hugged her tighter. "I'm really your mom, aren't you?" She tilted her head again, visibly confused. She hadn't seen me in over a year, yet she still called me Mommy so naturally. It tugged at my heart. "Yes, Mommy's here." "Tina, give Mommy some kisses," Tyler prompted with enthusiasm. Tina kissed me on the cheek with a loud smooch. My heart melted. I held her even tighter. Afterward, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time, my master, my old master. A raspy male voice picked up. "You remembered?" "No. Master, you knew all this, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me?" They had their ways. Of course I let them take the lead. He was almost 80 now, too old to meddle in much. My heart sank a little. Then he added, "I don't have much time left. You were with me for 8 years and barely learned anything. So just settle down with the Gary family and enjoy life. Tyler treats you well. I've done the math, you'll have a good future with him. A master is like a father. At 14, I had fled the orphanage with Annie. We ended up under a bridge, where I met that foul-mouthed, sharp-tongued fortune teller. He was terrifying, his words brutal, his temper unpredictable. There were times I hated him, couldn't stand him. But in the end, he was the one who gave us a roof over our heads. He taught me how to make money. And when he realized Annie was smart, he insisted she go to school, even if I had to earn the money to pay her tuition. Thinking about the past, tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. Are you home, master? I want to come see you. I'm home. Bring a few cartons of Marlboro cigarettes. Make Gary Corp pay. Tyler gently wiped my tears as he answered on my behalf, got it. I'll even bring a few bottles of good liquor. After we visited my master, I insisted that Tyler take me to see Annie. He wanted to call Derek first, but I stopped him. No. This is a surprise visit. I want to see exactly what Derek's up to. Seeing the stern look on my face, Tyler nodded timidly. The car stopped in front of a secluded villa deep in the mountains. Tyler opened the door with his fingerprint, far too smoothly. He glanced at me and hesitated. Annie, my brother doesn't really express feelings the normal way. Like a warning shot. A disclaimer. My expression darkened. Even with mental preparation, the moment the door opened, I was still overwhelmed by a surge of rage and disbelief. Annie was sitting on the bed, reading. She wore a soft white cotton dress. Her right wrist was chained to the headboard. She looked up in surprise. Rachel? Why are you here? I wouldn't have known you were chained up if I hadn't come. You lied to me, you said you wanted to stay. Furious, I rushed to tug at the iron chain. It wouldn't budge. I glared at Tyler. Bring me the key. He flinched and scrambled away. Now it was just Annie and me in the room. I stared at her, eyes stinging with unshed tears. Tyler said you remember everything. But I still know nothing. Sometimes, knowing too much isn't good, Annie said softly, brushing the corner of my eye. Tyler said you thought Derek cheated, and when he wouldn't divorce you, you ran off with me, and we crashed. That's mostly accurate. What do you mean, mostly? Annie explained gently, he didn't lie. But he didn't know, Derek did cheat. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Derek had a white moonlight, a first love from high school. They were madly in love. But when things were at their peak, she chose to study abroad and broke up with him. A cliché story. Last year, she came back. Reconnected with Derek. They started meeting, often. I'm not the jealous or paranoid type, Annie said. She put her book down and pulled me to sit beside her. I know Derek loves me. But I also know, a part of him still belongs to her. Rachel, I can't accept my husband being emotionally or physically disloyal to me. He hasn't crossed the physical line yet. But only because of his upbringing and moral restraint. I hope you understand what I mean. Of course I did. I nodded hard. Annie patted my hair. You once argued with Tyler and asked for a divorce because of all this. In the end, it was my selfishness, I didn't want to leave alone. It wasn't that, I said. If I left with you, it was because I wanted to go. Annie looked heartbroken. When she was sad, she would unconsciously curve her lips into a faint smile, but her eyes remained quietly sorrowful. I grabbed her cheeks and started squishing. Smushed her melancholy right out of her. Annie finally laughed. Tyler returned with the key and unlocked the chain. I asked Annie, what are you planning to do now? Before she could answer, Tyler immediately tensed beside me. He stared at Annie, swallowed hard, and inched closer to me, trying to grab my hand. Slap. I smacked it away. Annie chuckled at the scene. I want to spend some time with Tim first. After that, I'll take things one step at a time. Tyler let out a long, dramatic sigh of relief. While Annie and I were still talking, Derek returned from the company. He came in with a cold, stern face, walking fast and heavy. He looked like trouble. I instinctively stepped in front of Annie to shield her. Tyler, like stacking buffs in a game, moved in front of me. Bro, calm down. Derek swept his eyes across the room. Why exactly should I calm down? Tyler rubbed his temples. Sister-in-law's not planning to leave. Don't lose your mind again. Rachel's here too. If it happens again, I might really lose my wife. I caught the key point. Wait, what do you mean? If I weren't here, you'd just let him go off the rails. What? No. That's not what I meant. Tyler turned around, grabbed my hand, and began whining skillfully. Wifey, don't be mad, okay? I tried to pull my hand away, but he wouldn't let go. Gritting my teeth, I muttered, you're not really 6 years old. Enough with the baby act. Tyler looked genuinely aggrieved. But this is how I am. Derek, clearly out of patience, shut his eyes and shoved his brother aside. Move. Tyler was pushed hard and staggered a few steps, dragging me over to stand in the corner with him. I was honestly a little scared, thought Derek might resort to violence. I didn't notice what he had in his hands. His ears were slightly red as he lifted something. Strawberry cake. From Blue Sky Bakery. What the F? I turned and stared at Tyler, who had just cursed. He pointed at Derek. Bro, where did you learn this? Did you just level up emotionally or something? Derek ignored him and held the cake out to Annie. She hesitated, then quietly accepted it. She pulled me aside and we sat down together to eat it. I took a couple of bites. But seeing she didn't have much appetite, I asked gently, you don't want to eat because you're upset with him? Annie shook her head slowly. That's not it. She looked at the cake, it was indeed the kind she liked. Rachel, do you think he suddenly got emotionally intelligent because his first love coached him? I didn't know. So I shook my head honestly. Annie fell into a quiet sadness. In the memories I had, she'd never been this hurt by love. I'd never seen her like this before. Back then, she was in school while I worked. We had a plan, save up, buy a house together, find a real home. I took on every job I could to earn money. I was obsessed with it. But I never imagined that 5 years later, we'd seem to have it all, yet Annie would still feel so hollow because of love. Softly, I said, Annie, if you ever decide to leave, take me with you. She looked up at me. I mean it, I continued. You don't have to overthink. We grew up together, I'll be with you no matter what. But this time, if we go, we take the kids. I'm rich now. I pulled out my phone and showed her my bank balance. Grinning like a child, I added, who knew I'd end up pretty well off 5 years later? Annie smiled. I finally met Annie's son, a very adorable little boy. He clung to Annie's side and sweetly called me, Auntie. On the way home, Tyler still seemed rattled. You're not allowed to run off with your sister-in-law again, he said, eyes glistening. He squeezed my hand, voice low and husky. It's not fair to me. Outside the car, the city lights dazzled through the window. I didn't do anything wrong. It's okay if you think Annie's more important, but this isn't some choose one situation. And don't forget Tina. She's the most innocent one in all of this. I fell into thought. Tyler wasn't wrong. I just trusted my brother and didn't believe he'd ever cheat, he continued. But then you got angry and wanted a divorce. Rachel, I was really hurt. He kept talking. And I started to feel something didn't quite add up. Maybe our marriage wasn't all that strong. Maybe I'd mentioned divorce in the heat of the moment. But abandon my own child? As someone who grew up in an orphanage, I knew better than anyone what it meant to grow up without love. There was no way I would have left my child behind. Tyler, are you hiding something else from me? He froze. No. I didn't believe him. Losing my memory didn't mean I didn't know myself. If it was just about Tyler taking his brother's side, I wouldn't have been so foolish as to leave my child behind. But Annie also said I'd asked for a divorce over this. Too many details didn't add up. That night, I lay in bed tossing and turning, trying to process everything I'd learned in the past 2 days. Tina had been taken back to the Gary estate by Ms. Gary. Tyler tried to use the opportunity to crawl into bed with me, and I kicked him right out. He looked like a hurt puppy. Wifey. I'm 21 right now, Tyler. I'm single. Get out, I said, hugging my pillow and turning away. His jaw dropped. You can't be serious? Why not? When I was 21, I was very much single. Tyler went silent. Clutching his pillow, he moped his way out of the room, dragging his feet in protest. 20 minutes later. Knock, knock. I was just drifting off and growled, stop knocking. But the knocking continued. I groaned, crawled out of bed, and flung open the door. Does this single Miss Rachel require a service tonight? A smooth, warm male voice greeted me, tinged with flirtation. Tyler stood there in a sharp suit, shirt partially unbuttoned, revealing a peak of toned, pale chest. He was already handsome, but when he smiled like that, it was hard to look away. I opened my mouth to yell, but no words came out. It's free, he added, still grinning. Would you like it? Uniform kink. Uniform kink. I swallowed hard. My body moved faster than my brain. I stepped aside. Tyler's eyes flashed with triumph as he sauntered in with a smug smile, like he'd predicted exactly how this would go. He shrugged off his jacket and murmured, so hot in here. Miss Rachel, do you mind lowering the AC? By then, my soul had already been stolen by his beauty. Then he gently took my hand. Leaning down, he kissed the back of my fingers. His eyes met mine as his voice dropped to a low, tempting whisper. Would you like to try it? Try what? Tyler smirked. He mouthed the word without saying it aloud. 18. The next morning. Me, Miss Rachel, 21 years old and supposedly single, was no longer single. Tyler held me in his arms, grinning like a fool. Wifey, did you like that little role play? I thought about it, then nodded. No wonder I ended up marrying him and having a child. He might not seem mature on the outside, but in some areas, he was very skilled. Tyler was thrilled to get my approval. Next time, let's try something else, I said. Okay. I'll do even better, he added eagerly. No need. It's already more than enough. Okay. He looked a little disappointed. I spent the next month at Tyler's side, playing with Tina whenever I had time. Sometimes I even visited Tyler at his company. One day, in the company restroom, just as I was about to step out, a woman in a fiery red dress yanked my hair. Her gaze was sharp and hostile. She dragged me by the hair into a stall and slammed the door shut behind us, locking it. Well, isn't this Miss Rachel? Still alive, I see, she hissed through clenched teeth. I stared at her. She looked unfamiliar. But my curiosity piqued. Raising a brow, I asked, and what's that supposed to mean? She sneered. I thought you were dead. Well, I'm not. So what do you plan to do about it? The moment I finished speaking, she flipped open the toilet lid, grabbed the back of my head, and tried to shove my face toward the bowl. While doing so, she ranted, Thought you were so tough, huh? Thought you could ruin me? Huh? You think I'm scared of you? Annie, that idiot, stood up for you. Look how well that turned out. Derek loves me. No matter how hard you two fight, he'll never kick me out. Be smart and divorce him already. I caught most of it. But the second I heard her call Annie an idiot, my temper flared. I snapped back instinctively, if Derek really loves you, then why are you two-faced and playing both sides? Seriously, grow a brain. You're not some irresistible goddess living in a fantasy. Her grip faltered for a split second. I broke free, slammed the toilet lid shut, grabbed her by the head, and bashed it down a few times. Then I flipped the lid open again. Drink up, I said coldly. And just like that, my memory came back. Before the car accident, I had taken Annie to confront Linda, Derek's so-called first love. This woman had deliberately provoked Annie, playing the innocent while stirring the pot. Annie had begun to suspect Derek of cheating. Back then, I stood firmly by her side. I even fought with Tyler over it. But then I thought, given Derek's personality, he really didn't seem the type to play mind games or juggle mistresses. So I did some digging and discovered the truth. Linda was manipulating everything. Even after Derek distanced himself, she flaunted the ring he had given her when they were young. She kept showing up, dropping hints, playing victim, creating illusions that they were still together. She even staged encounters while Derek was away on business, making Annie believe they were secretly meeting. Neither Derek nor Annie ever bothered to explain themselves properly. That day, I was driving, cursing Derek under my breath. I was planning to drag Linda in front of the both of them and make them talk it out once and for all. As for Linda, I had already warned her. If I hadn't lost my memory after the accident, this woman would have been properly dealt with long ago. Dripping wet from the toilet encounter, I dragged Linda into Derek's office. He frowned. What is she doing here? She snuck in. You really haven't noticed she's always lurking around your building? Derek went silent. Gary Corp's headquarters was massive. It was impossible to monitor every corner. Even with security, someone was bound to slip through. I pulled out my phone and called Annie. Once she arrived, I pointed at the pathetic green tea girl on the floor. Starting today, the two of you need to communicate. Speak clearly. Lay everything about her on the table. That said, I turned and walked out like a queen. Tyler was waiting outside with clean clothes. Sweet and attentive as always. Rachel, go wash up in my lounge. Then change. I nodded. After the bathroom war, I was soaked. Tyler was practically sparkling with excitement. So, if my brother and sister-in-law clear the air, does that mean we're not getting divorced? His eyes were full of hope. I chuckled coldly. Not necessarily. I patted his face. I remember everything now, including all the stupid stuff you did. Tyler visibly froze. His expression cracked like porcelain. Tyler had a small lung nodule. The doctor advised him to stop smoking. But he was a chronic smoker. Even after I made him promise several times, he still smoked in secret. Our home surveillance caught him more than once. That, in fact, was the real reason we had that explosive fight. Of course, I wasn't going to divorce him over it. I just wanted to scare him. Tyler clung to my hand. I've quit, I swear. Don't be mad. Oh yeah? I know you were only worried about me. I was in the wrong last time. Didn't you say you had no freedom? I did. But now I'm free. Having a wife is the greatest freedom in the world. Tyler was, truly, a master at coaxing. After showering and changing, I walked out to find Tyler sitting on the lounge couch, holding a document. I looked down and took it. What's this? He gave a bashful smile. Wanna play boss and employee? You're the boss, and I'm your naughty little intern. Sure. Now I fully understood why I had fallen for Tyler. He knew exactly what I liked. Always full of surprises. He looked childish most of the time, but when it counted, he had another side to him. Intense. Passionate. I was very satisfied. Extra. After the green tea was kicked out, Annie and Derek finally started talking like normal people. The two emotionally constipated lovebirds had entered a new honeymoon phase, so intense, they blushed just from seeing each other. Tyler sighed dramatically every day, constantly reminding me that he was the most emotionally injured party in this year-long soap opera. After all, his brother almost lost his wife, he'd played coma for a whole year, and faked being mentally challenged for months. I rolled my eyes. The kids are the ones who really suffered. But in truth, Tim and Tina didn't really care about us. Surrounded by 6 nannies and doted on by Ms. Gary, they had practically forgotten who we even were. Tyler pointed at Tina, who was giggling away at super baby Jojo. You call that poor? She laughs more than anyone else I know. I couldn't even be bothered to argue. I pulled Annie aside. That first love, is she still causing trouble? Annie blushed. She wasn't his first love. What? It's complicated. But I've talked things out with Derek. And I trust him now. My eyes drifted downward, catching the red marks scattered across her neck. Well, trust is good. But maybe, tone it down a bit? That's very obvious. Annie playfully swatted me twice. We both looked toward the twins, standing not far away, keeping an eye on the kids and chatting softly between themselves. The sun was setting over the sea. Waves lapped gently at the shore. The once chaotic mess of emotions had finally settled into something peaceful. And honestly, it felt just right.